to the AMLoB Podcast Playoff Edition.
Yes. Welcome. We got Tyler making one of his first appearances on the pod, especially
First
as a
appearance, actually.
commish. Yeah. So, I thought we had you on here before.
Oh,
So,
man, it's the
first
first one.
appearance. Okay. So, first appearance on the pod. We got Tyler. So right now it's just me and him. We might have Dicey roll in later, maybe Corey, but probably going to be us two. Going to talk a little bit about some playoff football. Then we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about some of the things that we've been discussing as far in the commission group. No offense. Last week offense. We went over offense all pro last week. This week we're going to go over some defensive all pro stuff. And me and Tyler kind of have like the same thought process on some of these positions. So it'll be interesting to get into. But yeah, so I mean, if anybody wants to come on or has any comments or anything, any questions, we can go through that with you. As we go through the pod, it'll probably be about an hour and not run not too much longer than that, if anything. But yeah, that's what we got. And you got anything else, Tyler?
No, we're good. I just got about an hour is good for me. Unfortunately, got to get off and do a little bit of homework, but I think we can all squeeze it in an hour and should be an entertaining show for everybody.
Yep, definitely. So off the bat, um, one potential thing that's on the table right now is we want to start off the show with this, um, just for transparency purposes. Um, One of the things we were going to start off with is the fact that there is a offer on the table for a big shift in the team selection due to the Cowboys coming open. So we're going to talk about that for a second because we have some varying opinions on that in the commish group. So we'll get into it. Tyler has some ideas himself that he wanted to go over. So we can get into that. So you can go right on ahead, Tyler.
Yeah. So, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, if you've been in the league for a little while, multi-team switches weren't allowed for a long time, just because of like the varying chaos involved and everything. We just kind of tried to set standards. But so this year we had an interesting opportunity. It kind of started a lot with the fact that the Cowboys team has gone through a lot of tumultuous stuff going on, with certain users getting in, leaving, et cetera, et cetera, and then coming back to it, and then the most recent Cowboys user leaving. That in culmination with the fact that Austin with the whole Packers debacle wanting it, but it already being agreed on, and him going to the Seahawks. So we in commissioners chat all kind of talked about what would be the best way to go here, because so Superior Fly, who's the Jets, has been a really valued member of this league for a while, for seasons. He's played a majority of his games. He's played with what is essentially a bad team, and sometimes loses a lot of games. But still continues to play regardless and have a positive attitude. And he's a fan of the Cowboys, and we're like, we want him to switch to the Cowboys, and that kind of set in motion this almost domino effect, right? And so from
Mm-hmm.
there on, Jeff, who's the Dolphins, another really valued member of our league, who has for the most part been very active, someone that once again plays his games, has a positive attitude, and is just generally a positive member of our league, is the Jets fan, and didn't want to give up Dolphins unless he got his Jets. So we're like, what can we do there? There's not a full on switch, and then so then I came into the picture. I really wanted the Dolphins, as everyone probably knows. I like rebuilds, otherwise I get really bored. And then that set into play. Senio really wanting his Broncos, as he's been trying to get all cycle. Um, and then Austin would just take the Seahawks, which he agreed on, and then Lights coming in with a team that he really wants with the Bears. And Lights was kind of like an end of the thing, end of this conversation add-in that I thought would fit in, since he told me he would want the Bears. And so we really thought about all this, and it was a closely contested thing. We ended up with a very close vote, and we decided to do it. And the main reason being, from the people who voted yes's point of view, is that 4 new users are getting the teams that they really want here. If so, 3 of them being like number 1 teams, right? So Fly goes to his Cowboys, Jeff goes to his Jets, and Cineo goes to his Broncos. And those are like 3 teams that they follow very closely that are their main teams. These are all users we know will be involved, but we really think that keeping people on the teams that they want, the teams that they really are involved in real life, will help just overall with the happiness of the league. We think it's better for everyone to get more people on their favorite teams. Of course, that can't happen with me because some asshole took my team, and so I can't be the Panthers ever. But but overall, that was our thought process. So we thought that it was just kind of a domino effect, and that it fit well. If you have anything to add to it, of course, being an opposing viewpoint, I would love to we'd love to have clarity until the league that part as well.
Yeah. I was one of the ones that was on the opposite side of that. Um, Personally, I like to lean big on the fact that we definitely have turned down these types of things before, uh, simply because it's just a lot of moving parts, especially after we kind of went through the whole you know team selection thing as far as like if you're trading uh and if you are keeping. So I felt like you should have went to the pool, and I feel like everybody could have gotten their team in the pool anyway. So I think that probably would have been a little bit better as far as like the optics, and just going on that precedent, especially seeing as how that's something that we've done, since we've been a league. We've fallen a lot on, precedent of previous things that we've done. So personally, to me, just didn't really. It made sense because people will be more invested with having their teams. I just feel like because it could have gone to team selection and people would have been able to get these teams. I don't think it was necessary for everybody to make this huge switch. But it's great that everybody will have their team and be invested. I just kind of don't like the way it kind of went down, but that's just my opinion on it. Like I said, it was closely contested. The final vote was, I guess you could kind of say 3-2, as far as like we had to have an advisor come in as for an opinion as well. Um, so that's how we came to the decision. But just that we just wanted to go through that again for the transparency thing. We know that that's been an issue that everyone has had with us in the past, so we're trying to make sure we correct that going forward. But we wanted to get that out in the open. That way, when people saw stuff happening, they didn't just be blindsided by the entire craziness of the situation. So yeah, that's pretty much all we got for that one. Like I said, we just wanted to go through that because we felt like it was important to everybody in the league. So, do you have anything to add on that, Tyler?
No, just that we all saw, I think we all saw both sides of the argument completely. With a few people, just I don't think anyone was like hard line on one way or the other. We just had our opinions and voted on it.
Yeah.
Seems like Corey's gonna come on the pod pretty soon here. He just said I'm coming with a U and 2 M's. So either
Okay.
he's masturbating. He says probably not the pod. Packing for a trip tonight. Never mind. I think he's just coming. So never mind. So yeah, just that if you have any questions or anything, ask a commissioner. I don't think anyone will have too big of an issue with this because it seems like everyone kind of has the teams they want, and people that are going to team selection otherwise didn't seem like they were too upset with the way things were shaking out. So if you have anything, just go ahead and give us a ring. And with that, I think we're ready for the next topic.
Definitely, definitely. So we can get into the next thing that we're talking about, which is some playoff predictions. As y'all know, it's the playoffs for us, and we have quite a few good users in this league, and some very good ones in this race right in the playoffs right now. So, um, hell, in this round alone, we have Corey and Grid playing. We already had Cineo and Joe played, which was a really good game, honestly, after a slow 14-0 start for Cineo. But he got back into that game, and it turned out to be a really good one down the stretch. As somebody that watched the stream, we also have Austin and Cripps, which that's a tight game too.
Yeah, looking
Austin
forward to that
being
one for sure. I'm not looking forward to Cripps' bullshit stream because I hate not hearing anything. But I'm looking forward to the game. Yeah.
yes, Cripps in his no sound on his stream is the most like it's
Of,
just
of all the reasons I have to think that Cripps is a sociopath, that's the number one. I think is that he doesn't play with fucking sound on his game at all. I played a lot of 2K with that man. Okay, I've got a few reasons. That's number one.
completely understand because I'm like, bro, why the no sound thing? And then at one point he had turned on like the game sound, so like you could hear the in game stuff, but you couldn't hear any like commentary or anything like that. But then I guess he got tired of it, went back to the old streaming of him not having any sound. But that's going to be a really good one between two really talented users. Austin has been perennially one of the better users in this league. Always figuring out a way to get it done. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how it happens. He just figures it out. Cripps being again another one of those guys that has done great in the playoffs. He hasn't had quite the same success. To say the least.
Oh, he got to a Super Bowl. Leave our little sociopath alone.
But for the most part, Cripps has definitely been a really good user in this league. So
Robert is complaining about no face, so I guess I'll turn my face cam on. Here we go. There we go. All right, we're good.
We have Tyler.
Oh yeah, I think you can still see the Happy Halloween in the background from when we left our Halloween decorations up last year. So here we go. We got that, and then we got my cat over here is like just yelling for my attention.
Hey, there we go. So yeah, that's pretty much that's some of my thoughts. Oh yeah, we got a Pook and Roger, which
divisional game should be a good one. Just poop whatever you do. Don't throw too many slant passes because that'll really piss Roger off. It's not Sim.
Oh,
don't do it.
Face.
Yeah, it should be a good divisional game. I think that both conferences right now are pretty tight. I think there are a few like pretty front runners, but I think most in the playoffs it's gonna be a good group, and like I think most anyone could come away with it. To be honest with us at this point in time. With that being said, what do you think? Besides like the 1 and 2 seeds, let's leave those out for now. Who do you think could be like a good dark horse? Who do you think in this race do you think could come out and make it to the Super Bowl and win the whole thing?
To be honest, I'm gonna go with Joe. He has a great affinity to force turnovers. He's done extremely well with the user strip. He forces a lot of turnovers just with his user alone. The pressure he gets off the edge. Cameron Earl is at corner is a phenomenal player. So I mean, I think if I had to pick a dark horse, Joe would probably be it, just simply because of user talent combined with the pieces he has.
I'm with that one as well. I think Joe is a really good candidate for that. I played him myself. First year I had these Broncos. It's been a few years, but when he had his other team and Eagles, I believe. Yeah, and I won with like a last second. I think like 7 seconds left touchdown or something. The guy's good. He does force turnover as well. I think one thing that he doesn't do as well as some others is he doesn't user as well. And that might come down to bite him against some of the better passing users if they have enough time. But I think that when it comes to like stripping the ball, he does well. I think his offense, he knows what routes to call in certain situations. I've seen him mix up quite a bit. And yeah, I agree with that. In the AFC, I think wild card is going to have to be my go-to, and that's going to be the Chiefs. Corey, he got the experience. He's got the good team. I think the only thing that's holding Corey back really is his quarterback Drew Lock. I play Corey twice a year, and his quarterback is always suspect. He's got that big arm, but the accuracy flounders at times, especially when a guy's in his face. So I think. I think that's where he's going to maybe falter, but I think if there's someone that could do it in the AFC, it's going to be the Chiefs and Corey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Corey in the AFC, he has a chance to make a run. Corey is one of those, steady, like he's one of those users that because he plays strong defense, he's never really out of a game. Because all he has to do is just because all it takes is a couple big plays on offense with like a Tyreek or a Sammy, or even a Kareem Hunt, and he can figure out a way to win a close one just simply because he knows how to keep points off the board.
It's true, and I think that kind of goes into why his defense is ranked so highly. But I think his major dip is his offense. If you look at his numbers this year, he's 23rd in the league in rushing yards, which is probably pretty low for Corey. I know he likes to run that Kareem Hunt, and even on passing yards, he's 19 to 20. And of course, this can be mitigated by the fact that he does get turnovers. He gets a lot of interceptions. He gets a lot of sacks. So maybe he gets in field position a lot. I know that happens quite a bit. But there is definitely a dip from his Mahomes days. I really think there is. I think Mahomes did a better job than his young man Locke is doing. But I think in general, if there's someone that can do it, if his team catches fire, man, watch out, especially with that awesome O line and when he's starting 9 centers at the offensive line. I think that's another thing that can really get Corey's team going.
Yeah, definitely. They can, what I'm saying, they very versatile, can play a lot of different positions.
Maybe put Drew Lock's fucking up. Maybe put one of those centers in a quarterback. See what's up. Cross train.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah. So I mean, I think those are two really good dark horses. It'll be especially with Joe having Saquon, the MVP, as somebody that played Saquon in Week 17, and he completely dominated the game. Saquon can be a huge game changer. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Oh yeah, Saquon's great. I mean, he got league MVP for a reason. It wasn't a fluke. He can do anything. That guy's crazy. So with all that being said, with those dark horses we got, what are your picks for? Let's go championship game first. Who do you got for both championship games here?
Both championship games. If I had to pick my two, but seeing as how we're in the wild card and it just kind of depends on who wins, who loses. I would say, to be honest, in the AFC, the team that I would say the two teams I would say probably Pete should be on the lookout are you and Poop. I think you and Poop. Are probably going to be the AFC Championship game. With the fact that Bishes just hasn't quite been the Bishes of old with the postseason. It's kind of tough on him. So I mean, I would say if I had to pick two, it would be you and Pook in the AFC Championship game. Especially you may not have the best overall team, but you have guys at key positions that can get it done. Especially with Andrew Luck finally finding a good landing spot to, put up his numbers. That's been a huge part for you as well. I know you've been struggling at the quarterback position the last couple seasons, to say the least. So,
if you were listening, you fucking go to hell right now. If you're listening, fuck you, man.
And then I mean, Poop, that team is just ridiculously talented. The only other team I can think of that's probably anywhere near as talented is the Jags.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that team is great. Yeah, the Browns team is great.
Yeah. So
for AFC, I'm actually gonna throw a twist here, and I think I am voting for myself here, and it is because there's I can understand where you think there'd be a point of bias here, but I do have the number 1 defense in the league, as well as number 10 offense. And this is based on points. And so I think defense, we know that in the playoffs, defense, it wins championships. Like that old adage is pretty true. And I think that I think that's kind of true. Also, yeah, Andrew Luck with his clutch factor, as long as he can stay healthy, I think comes through. But I do think that Pook falters before he gets to the AFC Championship. I haven't looked at how seeding is going to work out yet, but I think if he, I think he could. I think he's going to beat Rogers Ravens, and it's going to happen. I think Pook's a superior user, and he's got a better team. And I also think, but then I think once he gets to the divisional round, the Broncos have beaten the Browns one time this year already. And I think even though he's got the experience there, the Bills are really hungry this year. So depending on Josh Allen and how he does, I mean, the Bills this year, if you look at their numbers, he has played in, of course, what we call the inferior AFC East. But you actually look at, and that's not a dig at anyone. It's just you look at records. But the Buffalo Bills scoring 32 points a game here every week, coming in and scoring an average of 32 points, second in the league. That's pretty incredible. And then only allowing 18, which is good for sixth in the league. I think if he continues that based on Josh Allen's success is the biggest thing that we're going to see. I mean, his defense is pretty scary, honestly, at this point in time. So that's my pick for AFC.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Personally, I just feel like it's sometimes talent. Sometimes when you get to those matches where it is a like two really good users against each other, sometimes it really comes down to the players, especially with how Madden is and how it animates. Um, Sometimes it just comes down to who has the better players. And even though the Bills team has been built really well, they don't have quite that level of talent that the Browns do. So with Poop, I think I would. That's why I would go with Poop there. But I can definitely see where you're coming from with your pick. And that's how we feel about the AFC. I mean, going on to the NFC, um, the two that I would pick in the NFC, um, one we have Dicey. I think Dicey pulls it off, and I'm gonna go Joe. Like I said, I'm
Ooh,
I'm
we're going the wild card pick. Okay, here
I'm
we
a,
go.
I'm a, I'm gonna go with Joe. I like I said, as somebody that I feel like he's a dark horse, especially at this point in the Madden, where people are a lot more lax as far as game preparation. I feel like he can come up and surprise some people, playing like a. I think he would be playing in the second round. It depends on who wins that game against between Austin and BF. But anyways, I feel like he would when with guys being a little bit more lax as far as game preparation. I think he can come up and surprise some people, man. I think with Saquon playing the way he is, Earl playing the way he is outside, taking away number one guys. I think that's going to be the difference in a lot of these games. So I'm gonna go with. So that's why I'm gonna go with. And plus, he gets great pressure off the edge. I'm not sure if Kirby is still hurt. I know he was hurt there for a second, but um, I think that he's going to be that dark horse that figures it out and gets to that conference championship game and plays against Dicey.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna go. Once again, I don't know how seeding goes, man. So if they I haven't looked at seeding at all, but if they end up matching up in the conference game, which I'm not sure of, I'm actually gonna go with Austin and Dicey. I think Dicey's the front runner for me in the NFC. But I think that Austin with his experience, that tough team. I mean, like Josh Allen coming off the edge. As long as his quarterback play can be consistent, I think that it comes down to quarterback play a lot in these playoffs, especially with all the pressure with these great defensive fronts that we see with every team, and that's what it's going to come down to. So if his quarterback plays well, I think they're there. With that being said, So if we're going Super Bowl picks, I'll roll out with mine. Super Bowl picks. I'm gonna go shameless self promotion here. Broncos versus shameless Mike Cloud promotion and Rams. I'm gonna say Broncos and Rams coming through with it. Um, and we're gonna have a hell of a Super Bowl here. What do you got?
I definitely can. To be honest, that's my pick as well. We have, I say Broncos and Rams. I think those two have been the most impressive teams this year. Dicey's quarterback Kogut has been ridiculously good. I think he only threw like single digit interceptions with almost 40 touchdowns. That stuff like that is crazy.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's actually Milani Kogut. Yeah. He's wonderful. Yeah, he's a good guy.
so definitely so I definitely think that y'all two can have him are going to be the ones that end up in the Super Bowl. As far as my champion, I think Tyler will get his second AMLoB Super Bowl
Oh, you
with
think I'm
a
going
close win.
two? Nice. All right. Yeah.
With a close win against Dicey in the Super Bowl. I think the difference will probably be a score, 3 to 7 points. I don't think it'll be much more than that. Um, but they're two really good defensive guys and guys that can figure it out on offense as well. So that's my Super Bowl pick. Like I said, I believe Tyler's defense has been crazy. Oysai has been wildly good. Um, with what 91 speed now, 92 speed.
No, he's still getting the same speed. He hasn't actually gotten a speed upgrade. Every time I upgrade him, he just gets block shedding. So it's every single time. So he was Defensive Player of the Year. He had 10 interceptions this year. Once again, for the third time in his career, hitting the double-digit mark. But yeah, my pick actually. Those are my two Super Bowl picks, but I actually do believe that the Dicey Rams will win this one. I think that overall the team is a little bit better. And Dicey's a very strong user, and I think it's going to be really hard for the Broncos to match up with DeAndre Melton, the 94 overall, 95 speed, 99 acceleration wide receiver. It's going to be rough. I mean, he came out of the draft with like 98 medium route running. Those post routes, those in routes, those deep ends are going to be hard to defend. Pretty much anytime there's a man coverage look, Melton's getting the ball. So I think it will be close. I'm calling a 27-26 Super Bowl in favor of the Rams. I think the Broncos come up a little short, but they're still proud of where they are compared to where they were 4 years ago.
Oh man, yeah. Where they were when you acquired that team is definitely in a lot better of a spot now, to say the least.
And I'm just
But
gonna
you
say
have,
that I never tanked either.
yeah, and that's the big thing is that you did all of this basically just rebuilding on the fly. You came into a bad situation and you ended up either making the playoffs that year or you almost made it. I
I made the
believe you
playoffs
made
the
it that.
first year. Yeah, made the playoffs the first year. To be fair, that was I think a little bit of Snippy not really trying. I think he kind of wanted to get in it like 8 and 8 or something, and I ended up actually getting in.
Yeah.
But whatever, I'll take it. Missed the playoffs the next year on some Madden fuckery at 11-5 when I should have gotten in. But
Oh, trust me, I know about missing it. Double-digit midnight.
yeah, yeah, I would say hopefully they fix that for Madden 20, but I'm sure that'll be a Madden 21 thing. This year we've really focused on seeding for the playoffs. So dynamic seeding, that's going to be a Madden 21 thing, I think probably. But yeah, it's overall we're happy with where we are. I think especially with the parity in the league. But I think the Rams run away with it this year. And then the head coach, just random prediction here, head coach of the Broncos moves over to head coach of the Miami Dolphins and sees what he can do in the last season of the cycle.
Yeah, the last season is going to be it's going to be more about who wants to finish strong, man. I think it's going to Josh will be playing again, and even though he may not be quite as invested, he's still always tough, just simply off ability alone. So
The great thing about Josh and what his team can do is, obviously his team is great, but Josh takes advantage of that, and he's able to do it very well. Josh knows that with his team being as good as it is, he can do the simple things really well, and that's what he does. He doesn't try anything extravagant. He makes sure that he does the technical things very well. He's like the Timmy Duncan of head coaches, and the fact that he's got a great supporting cast, but without him, it might not work anyway. So.
Definitely, definitely. That and that's always the thing with Josh is, as long as I've played him, since Madden 17, is just he does those little things where people make those mistakes. Throwing that, trying to fit that pass in there when you're not 100% sure you can get it in. Trying to throw on, second and three, second and two, third and two, third and one, because you feel like that's gonna be the thing that throws the defense off when you have a back in the backfield like of the caliber of Fournette. You know, he's like, okay, I'm just gonna run it, and you have to stop me. So he has his game plan, and it's on you to make him do something different. And even then, he still makes great decisions whenever you make him do something different. So that's something that makes him always tough. Is just like you said, doing those little things, not trying to jump that extra pass on defense, going for the swat, not going for the pick, things like that, are the things that make the difference as far as like playing against a player like Josh. So it's that's how I look at it. It's just he's so even if he's not invested, it's still gonna be tough to beat him.
Yeah. With that, I think we're ready to move on to our next topic. I think we got everything covered. You want to add anything else?
No, I'm good. I'm good. So
All right, on we go.
yeah, definitely. So one thing that so last week, as I said, um, we talked about some of the offensive all pro guys. I think that side of the ball is a little more like set due to
Cut and dry, yeah,
just
for sure.
yeah, due to some of these crazy numbers that guys are putting up this year. Um, so I think offense is pretty much set unless Tyler has anything that he wants to add. As far as like any thoughts you had on the offensive side of the ball. Um, Pretty much we just covered on who we thought were locks, and those fringe guys that were fringe locks. Um,
Um,
so
on offense, let's see here. I haven't really gotten much of the NFC. I've taken a few looks at it, but I think from everyone's posts in the chats and everything, I think it's pretty much set here. The one that yeah, you know what? Actually, it's probably pretty set. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was gonna try to add something besides the fact that I just cannot decide on a quarterback three for the AFC. Baker and Lamar, number one and two. But after that, like I just no one's consistent enough. It's gonna be a difficult one for me. That's all I got for that one.
yeah, I mean for the quarterback, third quarterback in the AFC, I think with that I went with Minshew because Minshew has a Super Bowl, and if we're talking about just like efficiency, he may not have like the eye popping numbers. He's throwing for 3,300 to 3,500 yards in most cases, but just the efficiency, the fact he has a Super Bowl, those are two things that I think put him into that spot right now. Now that could also change depending on how Corey finishes with Lock, but um, at this current moment, that's my thoughts on where the third quarterback in the AFC is. Now, if we're talking about like a really wide open race, the NFC, in my opinion, doesn't have any locks. The closest one you have is, I guess, Josh Rosen, but with so many inconsistent performances and seasons, it's kind of hard to put him as a lock, especially when you got guys like DeWeaver and Melanie Kogut, and of course, my quarterback. Like we have, so I mean, with those guys, it's tough to make Josh Rosen like a lock because it's just too much inconsistency there.
Yeah, fun fact actually, like this season, where the owner of the Cardinals actually went on a space exploration season. Decided that he was going to go on sabbatical. Still finished with the most yards of his career, which is incredible. He had more interceptions than a lot of his other years, but he still had 4,400 or 240 yards. Rosen, I think, is kind of a lock there, but it is a little more up for grabs. And then, I'd say that's probably it. DeWeaver's definitely there as well. Wentz might be there. There are a few guys that are like kind of there, but like I think as far as quarterback goes, it's kind of a toss up. Rosen can still lose it, by the end of the cycle. If he wants to lose quarterback one, it can happen. See what happens next year.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, that's pretty much it for offense. I mean, we pretty much know who the receivers are. We know who the running backs are. That's not even up for debate, especially after that year that Saquon just had.
Oh man,
So
with the year, if Saquon has a repeat year, he's going number one for me. I mean, it's like with Elliott. Elliott's been great, but I mean, like, I just think that Saquon like has really just upped his game, and he's just a much also a much bigger threat as a receiver. I think that's a big thing for me as well. Is like I like the receiving yards quite a bit. I like what he can do in the receiving game, and that matters a lot for me as well. I mean, just looking at this year, he had multiple games, I believe, where he had multiple touchdowns receiving the ball, and that was really interesting for me as well. That he can do whatever he wants in that category. So I probably say Saquon's up there. I mean, this MVP season that adds a lot of weight for me, in my opinion. Kamara always being a staple as well, but those are probably going to be the three that are there no matter what, unless barring something devastating. Those are the three that I see happening here.
Josh Jacobs was on even though he hasn't been in the league that long. Josh Jacobs was actually on a path that could have led to being an All Pro selection, but due to, like you said, space exploration from the Cardinals user, he had quite a down year, to say the least, at least compared to the first couple seasons he had. So, pretty much everything else, like I said, I think it's pretty much locked on the offensive side of the ball. But now we're getting to defense, which is which is something Tyler's team really excels in.
So I might have a few homer picks here. We'll see what happens. I'm sure I just rehashed a bunch of stuff we talked about last week. So let's go right into defense. Let's go into it. Offense has been talked about. So
so let's do it. Defense, the edge is like crazy tough, just simply because of the amount of players that can kind of go there. Me and Tyler, what I was saying earlier, kind of have the same thought where we kind of agree on when we're valuing these edge guys is what they have behind them, as far as like their secondary, using linebacker, and just and just ability to get pressure regardless of circumstance. So those are the things that we kind of agree on as far as looking at these edge rushers. So it's like guys like Myles Garrett, to me, even though Myles Garrett has been putting up really, really good numbers, with that secondary, it makes it a little bit easier because you get a lot more covered sacks, you get a lot more, especially with Sua as the user. That team is just so loaded, it's kind of hard to tell just how good he is, especially when you have another rusher on the other side like Agba that he had for a long time, and you got those guys on the interior. So I mean, it's just that team is so loaded, it's kind of hard to see how really good Myles Garrett is. So that's the type of thing that we're talking about. You got anything to add to that, Tyler?
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair to say that, and I think I'd be a little hypocritical with that as well. I'm looking at my rankings right now, and it's been a little while since I've touched them, just because I've been so busy with my other career, my side career, which is real life. That Madden, of course, is number one. But we got I put Unique Ngakoue as number 3, and looking back, as great as the numbers are, I can't justify really that Myles might even be over him, just because of the fact that Unique has always had that amazing 1-2 combo at corner his entire career in this league, as well as strong safety play and everything. So we'll see how it ends up shaking up. I think it's like pretty as far as AFC goes, I mean, it's pretty set in stone that Von Miller is number one. I mean, every single team he's been on, of course, Denver's his best team because Denver's the best, but he's just killed it everywhere he's gone. Denver, Seattle, Oakland. I mean, he's putting up double-digit sack numbers, high double digits every single year.
Yeah,
It's unreal. It's no
yes.
matter what scheme he's in. And the man's how old is he now? I mean, like 35. Like it's nuts. He's still doing it too.
Yeah, Von Miller has been easily one of the best edge rushers of this cycle. Period. It doesn't matter where he's gone. He's definitely put up ridiculous numbers that
I mean, 36 years old, and the last season, where the Oakland Raiders owner actually went to star in a Sharknado movie for an entire season, so he wasn't around. Still, Von Miller had 16 sacks. I mean, 3 forced fumbles, 54 tackles in mostly simulation games, and forced losses at that. Where maybe your stats really aren't as great as they could be.
Yeah.
And he still had 16 sacks. I mean, that's pretty incredible, considering that it just for any of his Denver years, it's still higher than any of his previous Denver years. So, I mean, it's incredible in my opinion. I think Bond is pretty much a lock for number one at this point in time unless something devastating happens.
Yeah, Von Miller definitely has been. Well, there's a couple people that honestly can really like Shaquem Griffin. Shaquem Griffin, he has been crazy good. Marcus Davenport has been probably the most underlooked pass rusher of the cycle.
Also true.
That man has done an amazing job coming off the edge, and I mean Chris has had him everywhere. 4-3 defensive end, 3-4 outside linebacker. Just he finds a way to get it done everywhere. So, to me, that is one that's one that I think people really haven't paid much attention to, but he definitely deserves that type of recognition. Is having him there as one of the top edge rushers.
And I give that credit as well. I think Davenport's really strong. I do, just like we were saying before, he does have a lockdown corner that we also have on the All-Pro list in Marshawn Lattimore. That, so we take that into account as well. But I think when all is said and done, it's still pretty crazy what he's been able to do, just lining up everywhere around the scheme.
Yeah. It's been some who I think the thing that kind of makes the difference with Khalil Mack is the fact that one, he's coming off the edge, and on top of that, you had for a couple years there, you had Hassan Reddick back there as the user. Then you got Jordan Evans that was back there as the user. So there was always that element to it that made it really tough on opponents because you can't really, because you think something's there. Reddick has the speed to close the gap on a play. So then you'll hesitate. Next thing you know, you got Khalil Mack coming on one side, Chandler Jones coming on another. It can just snowball really fast for you. It's been some really good pass rushers. A lot of them have not necessarily had the extra help. Bradley Chubb is one that comes to mind for me that hasn't quite had the help. He's a fringe guy for me right now. But he's definitely, especially the last few seasons, come on really strong. As far as being able to get that great pressure, especially now that he has a crime partner with Brightful, it just seems it's another one of those situations that can quickly snowball on you. That's my thoughts on like a Chubb who's a fringe guy, where he's been so good these last few seasons that it kind of actually salvaged him from being one of the more disappointing players of the cycle. So
yeah, the late bloomers, I agree though. I think as much as I wanted to put Chubb in there, and I almost did, I couldn't, just based on the fact that his first 3 seasons in the league, first 4 seasons in the league, he was mostly disappointment. His first 2 seasons, not a sack at all, almost single digit tackles. and then he finally started coming on. At the end of 2021, finally caught on, and then after that, just started killing it. But you've got to have consistency all the way around. He just hasn't. 1 year he did have 6 forced fumbles and 22 sacks. That's kind of the highlight of his career. But since Breitful came in the league, he's been going down in sack numbers a little bit. Breitful kind of taking away his sacks, but I don't think that means that Chubb is any less dominant. But unfortunately, there are people ahead of him, and that's kind of the point of fringe players, why we have like honorable mentions and whatnot, to try to recognize that there are a lot of great players in this league, but not everyone can make the list, and it's how it happens.
Yeah, especially at a position like edge rusher with. I know another thing we were talking about was just how this Madden, functions and replicates. Edge rushers can be really OP. So I mean, it's a lot of really good, especially depending on the scheme. So it's a lot of really good edge rushers that that just figure out a way to get pressure due to scheme or like I said, just how the game animates stuff. They typically figure it out and find a way to get to the quarterback. So that's always a tough thing with the edge, is just because there's always so many really good players there. Always so many really good players there.
Agreed. So what do you think about off-ball linebacker? What's some thoughts on that one? What do you got there?
Ooh, now that's also a really tough one, just because there are some really good, some really, really good guys um, at off-ball linebacker. In the AFC, of course, you have guys like Tremaine Edmonds, you got Sua, and you have guys like Devin Bush and Forsyth, Miles Jack. Like there are some really good guys in the um, in the AFC as far as that off-ball backer goes. Forsyth has been one of those guys that came on later in the CFM. He wasn't quite getting the numbers that he's putting up now, of course, due to scheme change, team change, etc. But he definitely has come on strong towards the end to be able to make a case as far as being one of the better linebackers in the AFC. Um, and then of course you have like guys like Sua, who again Sua started off slow with those first couple years um, before he got traded to the Browns, and then he just caught fire and hasn't slowed down yet. Miles Jack, of course, is easily one of the better user linebackers off the gate. So that's a big thing, and that's a big part of him. Then Tremaine Edmonds, like his ability, him being one of the few linebackers that made it to 99 across the board, shows you just how dominant he's been. And that's at all levels, because he's done everything from getting sacks to forcing fumbles to getting picks to scoring on those picks to getting tackles for loss. Like Tremaine Edmonds has easily been one of the most dominant linebackers of this cycle.
Oh yeah, listen to these attributes. I mean, and we're talking Madden 19, where it's a little harder to build up all those base attributes. This is Madden 17, where you're just putting crazy points in the zone and speed. This is where you're kind of at the mercy of your upgrades. Tremaine Edmonds, 89 speed, 99 tackle, 97 block shed, 94 acceleration. Then we go into 91 zone coverage. We go into the 85 finesse move, so we can move anywhere he wants to. We can go to the outside for a second, go on left outside, right outside linebacker, and blitz you on the edge and come away with it.
Exactly.
But the scariest thing of it all is he's 6'5", 250 pounds. He's not a Forsyth who's 6'2", 215. This man is huge. I mean, he looks like a defensive end. And he's playing off-ball backer, and then runs a 4.4. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah, Drew has been definitely one of the best linebackers of this cycle. I mean, not just linebackers. Like I said, he's been easily one of the best defensive players. Just especially at a position like linebacker, getting those takeaways is huge, and he finds a way to get it done, whether that's a forced fumble or that's getting an interception. I mean, I'm pretty sure in pass deflections, he's pretty high too as far as linebackers are concerned. So that just his ability to dominate at all levels, like going back to those attributes you were talking about, how he has that 85 finesse move where he could line up at defensive end and be just as effective. Um, it's a ridiculous thing to see.
Yeah, he's really not fair. I think it just that's just how it is. When you have someone with that physical skill set that puts it all together like that, it's going to be hard to defend. And then in the NFC, someone who I think is also overlooked quite a bit for his ability to really do everything over the course of his career is someone on your team, Luke Kuechly, who I think like at certain points in time has had like I think like 8 or 9 sacks from a middle linebacker position. He always gets his interceptions. He's a tackle machine. Definitely going into my votes for off ball, just because of the fact that man literally does everything. Of course, we got Hassan Reddick, who's probably a lock for something. He can do it,
Yeah.
like breaking all the interception records he has, going into probably like a top 10 interceptions of all time already in his career is pretty incredible. Quan Alexander, of course, just like with his crazy amounts of tackles left and right, his ability. I think there are just like some that are clear cut above the rest, and that's going to be Tremaine and Hassan. But I really think that honorable mention and someone that I'm going to try to really like. I'm going to vote for probably at some point in time is Luke Kuechly. Just an all around guy, a real gym rat. So first in, last out kind of guy. Comes into the stadium at 4 a.m. and like saves kittens from trees, visits people in the hospital, I mean that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, he's been an anchor on my defense for forever, and I mean and we're talking about like ability to take the ball away. Not only does he have like I believe it's
real quick,
41.
LJ, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
Cripps is asking for an invite.
You said what?
Cripps is asking for an invite, real quick. So we're gonna try to
Chris
get him in here.
asking for an invite?
Try to get him in here to talk some more about some All Pro stuff. See if he's got anything to add for everything that we've been going on here. I mean, like as sexy as our voices are, we can always use our good old AMLoB sociopathic advisor. See what we got here.
There we go. But yeah, with Luke, my thing with Luke is that it's he figures he forces fumbles at such a crazy rate. He averages like 3 a season on top of the fact that he's averaging 6-7 interceptions a season with about 6 or 7 pass deflections. And of course, like the sacks, like you said, he averages about 4 or 5 a season. So it's just like numbers wise, he's definitely been one of the better like all around players. I mean, it's kind of I guess you could kind of say it's homer bias, but personally, as somebody that's kind of just seen the impact, and people who played against me have seen his impact, whether I'm using him or not. He just figures out a way to make stuff happen. So, but of course, you have like a Crips. Your invite is sent, by the way. But he just figures out a way to get it done. Then, of course, like you said, you have Hassan Reddick, um, who transformed from somebody that was a pass rusher into what's now a solid coverage linebacker. Um, Dude has been ridiculously good. Again, another guy with like crazy physicals that you were talking about. Um, so he has an ability to do everything as well with his ability to rush the passer as well as force those picks, force those fumbles, get those tackles for loss. So he's been a huge player this CFM. But off ball backer is always a tough position just because it's only 3 spots per team, and there's so many really good guys at the position. Like Foyside is definitely just off of how he's come on late has been really big. It's been really big. So that's just my opinion. Oh, we have Crips on. Welcome, Crips.
Oh, what's up? What's going on?
Krista White coming at you, real hot.
Oh my God. How are y'all doing?
We're
Good, man.
We're just talking about we got some all pro conversations going on here. We're
Ooh.
talking about some off ball backer. We've already got edge rusher covered a bit. Just talking about how really saturated that is. Then now we're talking about off ball backer and whatnot. So go ahead and give some thoughts if you'd like.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I
You
mean,
can turn your mic up a little bit. I can't hear you, Crips.
Oh, how about that? Can you hear me now? Maybe. Hopefully. Wait. Can you not?
I can hear you just fine. It might be LJ.
Yeah, it might be something going on in my headset, but I can hear you a little bit better now though. So
Okay.
yeah,
I'll try to enunciate. Um. Yeah. I mean, just kind of coming in off what LJ was saying. Yeah. I mean, I feel like most positions on defense. I mean, especially in the front seven, but you really see it a lot at corner too, where there's just so many high end players that it's just even like 4 or 5 years of consistent performance sometimes isn't enough for a first team bid just because you got so many guys that have 6 or 7 years of consistent performance. I think off ball is a great example of that. Edge really is, but that's just because sack numbers are so out of hand this year. But
Yeah. What else you got? Anything else? Or do you want to move on to secondary?
um, you know, I mean, I don't know if all I got to say is like on it. I haven't had a chance to fully dive into everything yet, so I don't really have a ton of names. But I know Foyesade is unfortunately probably not going to be on my first team.
Even with
But
his defensive player of the year this year and another 10 interceptions?
yes,
We'll see. We got one more season. Oh, no, never mind. I'm off this team after this season. Yeah, okay. Bye, Foyesade. You think Senny will trade him to me? Probably not. Give me.
I think second team. I could see him making a run at second team.
Yeah, second
But
team would make sense to me too. I agree.
the first team guy, and that's kind of the one thing you run into is a lot of the time those first team guys are so often guys that produce for every season of the cycle, save for maybe one or two, or have a ridiculous 4 to 5 season run in like every statistic. So say if Foyesade had the tackle for loss numbers of like an edge rusher. If
Oh
he
yeah,
had like if
for
you
sure.
if he had like 14 or 15 tackles for loss a season, he might make it. But it's just the fact that it's when you kind of factor in the full scope aspect where he's amazing when it comes to intercepting passes. He kind of slacks a little bit when it comes to the tackles and the tackles for loss. And unfortunately, that's just kind of those pure users that tends to kind of sometimes be an unfortunate side effect of that is, those tackles and tackle for loss numbers aren't always there. But, I think he's probably a safe bet to at least get, at worst case, the front seven flex spot for the second team just off of his coverage ability alone, because the interception numbers I don't think have been rivaled by a true linebacker this cycle, unless I'm just forgetting somebody.
Yeah, I mean Hassan Reddick has been in the league for 2 years longer and has 11 more interceptions. At the current rate of Foyesade, I think if he would have perhaps if I would have 2 more years with him, I think he would have caught up with ease. But that's pretty much it. I agree with you though. I'm mostly just stirring shit up and fucking around. I really do think that he's like a second teamer or a flex at best. And that's fine. I think there are a lot of great players in this league and a lot of people that do a lot of great things. So with that being said, I mean like people like Quan Alexander who have 57 interceptions over 10 years and almost 11,500 tackles. Is that a fucking way to say words or numbers? Anyway, Keith Lee being another one as well. Of course, I'm mostly just tugging strings here, but
Oh, no, I know. I mean, and you got to back. I mean, I don't blame you for backing your guys. Everybody backs their guys, and the one thing to keep in mind too is it doesn't factor in like before AMLoB starts. So
of course, yep.
Hassan and Foyesade are on they've played the same number of years. The difference would be Foyesade didn't really do anything before he had did he have one good year? With you,
oh yeah, he did. He had a 16 interception season actually with the Falcons. This last year with the Falcons.
Okay.
Yeah, he had 16 and then 11 with me when he came to Denver, and that's when he had 83 tackles that first year too, which is the highlight of his tackle career. Anyway, I don't want to jerk Foyesade off too much. We'll talk about everyone else too.
No, he's definitely been one of the bigger turnarounds from first half to second half of the cycle, though, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, so should we move on to some secondary then?
Oh
Yeah.
my! I don't know if there's a position more loaded than corner, honestly.
Corner's pretty rough. I agree. That's pretty dope. I'm taking you guys with me to get some chicken nuggets. Hold on.
Oh, oh! Give me some of them nugs.
There we
Actually,
go.
no, I
Oh
already
yeah.
got, I already got Draymond dicked like 10 minutes ago. I don't need any nugs to go with the dick.
Draymond.
Oh, that was a rough.
All right. Well, Crip, since you're coming in it kind of late, why don't you start off with the corner position? Then you seem to have some feelings on it with how you said it was loaded.
I really think it is. Yeah, it's you know I was going through. I think the best way I could think. I was going through joking with Emmons a week or two ago, and I was like, man, I don't, because it was when Pook was setting his up, and he had he had just forgotten Marshawn Latimer. Like he forgot to like even analyze him for his thing, and I was like, how can you forget this? Like he's easily a the fact that all he's done the whole time is shadow number ones and still does what he does. I was like, there's no way he's not at least a flex for first team. And then I go and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, we got Tre'Davious White over here. We got what's his name in Carolina?
Dante Jackson.
Dante
We got some
Jackson.
fried fries right here. I'm about to put in the oven. These fries.
Got Denzel Ward. You got Jalen Ramsey. I mean, there's just so many, and those are just the guys from season one, mind you. Those are just the guys that came in season one.
Yeah.
Corner's the one position where a corner at the top of the draft, those corner athletes are ridiculous, and it's it's so difficult to break in that cornerback spot because of that. Because I feel like, end of the day, it's just another one of those positions where you could have 5 years of great production, but you're going up against guys that have been producing for 7 years, and that's really like everybody first and second team. I feel like is going to end up being like those 7 year producers that have that advantage of being really good over a really long span of time. But and I don't have like a ton of just names off the top of my head right now, but just trying to like think about just
We're talking league wide, or we're doing like AFC, NFC. Because I mean, if we're doing league wide, I mean, yeah, like Trey White, Jalen Ramsey, Marlon Humphrey. I mean, like those.
that's what I'm saying is
Yeah, it's so hard.
by the
So
time
hard.
the list comes down to it, when you're actually looking at like Marshawn Latimer will be lucky to be second team, and he's been a lockdown number one corner against number one receivers since season one, and he'll probably find himself midway on the second team just because there's so many good corners that have been so good.
I think
You
we should
know,
have an honorary cuck award because Bradley Roby has cucked many users, like really good users like Corey and Pook when they tried to come back against me with intercepting him at like a 76 overall Bradley Roby. So can you have an honorary cuck award? Is that cool?
I mean, you could maybe try and throw him in for a Wumbo spot, but I don't know if he'll actually win anything there.
Can someone explain to me what the Wumbo spot is? Sorry, Wumbos
Um,
don't rise up against me in chat. I don't know
um,
what is hut for
so
Wumbo.
it is basically the player that most epitomizes the Wumbology ideologies.
Yeah.
That is the best way I can think. It is the player that most epitomizes the Wumbology ideologies.
Well, I'm voting for LJ just for the fuck of it. What about that?
Um, so, um, that's going to be a tough depth to break in on because typically the first team Wumbo belongs to a Wumbo, which is just something that I don't know how it kind of happened because of it started because we were joking around one day I think, and Dylan Tyler Emmons was talking about Dylan Tyler and was like, we need something on here to just for Dylan Tyler because he's been such a lad. And he's because he was his backup, he was his starter for a little bit, and then he was his backup, and then I think he traded for him when he moved to the Lions, and he was his
Yeah.
backup. How we kind of have this very vague storyline that runs through the league, like Pook's quarterback last year, because of all the suspensions he always had. He chronically would do lines of cocaine before every game, and so sometimes the league would reprimand him because they would realize he was doing cocaine before the games, and that's why he got suspended so much. Dylan Tyler was the epitome of a wumbo, and thus the Wumbo Award was born, and Dylan Tyler was the first team Wumbo.
All right, well, cool. Sounds
You
great.
asked, you,
yeah, no, that was on me. I shouldn't have asked. I apologize. I've learned my lesson on that one. Cool. Sounds good. All right. Well, LJ, what do you got for corners? What are you thinking, buddy? For not your corners, sorry, secondary in general. We got safeties in here, obviously, as well. You know, there's not a whole lot of contention for me. I mean, like obviously it's saturated, but I think the top names are pretty close. They're pretty much there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. That's been my thoughts on the position. To me, the front seven is going to be where my tougher decisions are. In the secondary, of course, guys like Ramsey, Tre'Davious White, Denzel Ward, Dante Jackson,
Marshawn Lattimore,
Darius Slay,
Of the year.
Marshawn Lattimore. Like those guys are pretty clearly at the top. If I had to say who probably the top four of those people are, I would have to go with Ramsey in no particular order, of course. Ramsey, Ward, Trey White, and Dante Jackson. Simply because Dante Jackson is especially not having quite the same help in his secondary that he doesn't have quite the same help in the secondary that other guys have, like Marshawn has Marcus Williams behind him and Jair Alexander on the other side.
Hey, Marshawn shadows too, though. Just saying,
You brought up
not all those corners you mentioned shadow number ones all the time. Marshawn shadows number ones.
Well, actually, Dante Jackson covers everybody.
I'm not saying Dante doesn't shadow, but not all the names you mentioned shadow. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but I mean, whenever you get, of course, you have Jair Alexander on the other side, taking away somebody's second best option. So I mean, then you have Marcus Williams starting whoever their tight end is. Like it's like Crips, your secondary is loaded, man.
I'm not saying it's not.
Just call it what it is.
I'm not saying it's not. It's the best secondary in the league, is what it is.
Just call it what it is, Crips. Your secondary is loaded.
I have an 80 overall
Todd.
I have an 83 overall corner is my fourth string corner.
Exactly the point. See, like so for guys like that, it's like people don't really have many options. Dante Jackson has had limited help. I wouldn't say no help, but he's had very limited help this entire cycle. And he's played everybody's number one receiver since I've started, and he's done an amazing job at doing that. So
we have a little bit of a mutiny going on in chat right now that I'd like to talk about. Our beloved commissioner has taken to not allowing the Bills user to come back in the league after he posted a rambunctious picture of Bill Refute.
Okay.
Technically, he didn't. Hey, technically, he didn't post it. He changed it to his profile picture for like 2 minutes.
Oh no, he did post it. He posted it. Go back to the chat.
Oh God. Oh, we all got Draymond dick. Oh God. Okay.
What do you mean? Oh God, LJ. What is it? Because it's black? You racist?
I can't with y'all, man.
That wasn't me. That one wasn't me.
I can't with y'all, bro.
It's a pretty creative filter, or whatever the hell it is on the drawing.
It's a pirate.
Yeah, it's a good pirate. I like it.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? Draymond's pirate dick.
Are you ready, kid?
That's so terrible. That sounds really bad. That sounds really bad.
There was one of my favorite memes of all time. Was this like story on Reddit or something, and it was like, describe your sex life with a line from a TV show, and someone was like, "Are you ready, kids?"
Terrible. Terrible.
Oh, what is this?
There's nothing good about that.
It made me laugh. You like my happiness, LJ? Wow.
There's nothing good about that. Nothing at all that is good about that.
I have no response to that. I have no response to that.
Well, I guess we'll deal with this after our pod, then. Let's continue with the all-pro movement here. Let's get.
Oh God.
We haven't really talked about
Yeah.
interior. I do want to say just a couple of things about the interior. I think Cameron Jordan's done a great job. Aaron Donald as well. Personally, playing against Fletcher Cox twice a year for 3 years, I hate that fucker so much, and he's going on my all-pro list because you can't do anything against him.
Oh, he's definitely he is one of the best. He's probably the most underrated interior because people that don't play him all the time forget that he is so dominant, but he's one of those guys that I will, and Corey kind of started this whole movement. I don't disagree with him that some guys are just coded to, no matter what their ratings are, they always play a little
Bradley
better than
Cuck
the
Roby.
I don't know about that one. But like JJ Watt is one of those guys where JJ Watt, no matter how old he gets, whatever his ratings are, JJ Watt always plays like a goon.
Yeah, I think traits have a lot to do with that, and I'm pretty excited for offensive linemen to have traits again next year if they do. I mean, or to have traits next year, which they should. They should have already. I don't know how they let that out.
I don't think they're going to, honestly. It's just going to be the elite Kims.
Ridiculous. You gotta.
Yeah, I think they said offensive line aren't going to have them, but not 100% sure on that. So I wouldn't quote.
I mean,
on that, but
they need to. You've got to have like something, like someone like a Joe Thomas. Obviously, is retired now. Like, he's the first pass protector that comes to my mind in recent years. He's got to have like just whatever, like a lockdown, like a brick wall, like anything like that. Like anchored. Like there's got to be shit like that. All the way back to the Madden 08 days where you had like the weapons above their heads and stuff. Like,
I'm not disagreeing with you. They definitely should, but it's I don't know.
I think the quarterbacks are
right now.
I think the quarterbacks are going to be the ones that
main focus,
that dictate the offensive line abilities.
Oh, sure.
I know they said like Tom Brady has one that it's like pocket passer, where his offensive line gives him more time than they would give somebody who doesn't have that trait. So I think that's more of the way that they're going with it, as opposed to giving offensive linemen direct traits. But as far as interior guys go, there have been some really dominant ones. Aaron Donald, to me, again, is one of those guys that's just easily been one of the best defensive players, period, this cycle. He's one that definitely comes to mind. As far as like if we're talking about another dominant guy, Cameron Jordan, especially with his ability to line up all over the place, 3-4 DNs, 4-3 DN, 4-3 DT, like he's just playing everywhere.
Yeah, I feel like as much as my secondary is good, I cannot count how many games I've won this cycle off of Cameron Jordan just being unblockable in the run game, because it's one of those, him specifically, he's one of those things, he forces guys to the pass, which forces people to throw into that secondary.
Yep. All right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that completely. He's great. It's nuts. He makes everyone throw right to you, right to Marshawn.
Yep. But really quick, Fletcher Cox is also, he's one that I've definitely put on my list solely because he is, again, one of those dominant guys. It doesn't, as far as stopping the run, crazy. He's been crazy good stopping the run, crazy good, forcing pressure from the interior. The sack numbers don't always reflect it, but just, as much pressure as he generates on the inside, like Tyler was saying, is somebody that played him for 3 seasons twice a year. That can get a little maddening. So, to say the least.
So Now that it is about 7 o'clock, I do have to get off and go do some homework. So I'm going to leave you guys. But first, before I do, I'm bringing up a surprise topic I didn't even tell LJ about because I wanted to save it and see what your actual thoughts were on it, kind of like your whimsical thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Out of everyone on our list so far, from the two of you, I'll give one myself. Who is your vote for most overrated player? Maybe like statistics are inflated. Like he doesn't really show up as much in games as maybe his statistics say he does.
Most overrated player.
Oh yeah.
That actually is a really good.
Y'all want me to come in with a little spicy little hot take?
Oh, I'm always down for that spicy. Give me that spice.
Go ahead.
I do not know a 99 overall corner that gets burned, like to the excessive degree. Marshawn Latimer will either hunt you down or you will score a 90-yard touchdown on him once every 30 plays. There is no against Corey. He had a play against Corey where the CPU Latimer dived at the air instead of tackling the receiver that was right there.
Oh, yeah.
He chose to turn and dive at the air.
So your votes go into Marshawn of all people. I mean, like I know you use him a lot, so you see when he fucks up a bunch. But you think that's the overrated one?
I will hammer home and that he locks down number one guys, but it's just, and I don't know if it's maybe because I always put him on number one guys, and so he ends up in more situations than most guys. Where
I think that's mostly it because Dante Jackson gets the same type of thing where there's sometimes he just gets really bad animations because he's covering the best receiver on the other team. So I think that's mostly it. Because especially like you said, most of those other guys don't cover the best guy on the other team.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it also do, but I single him out just because he's a 99 overall.
Yeah,
but that's why I do it.
That's the key is to always have shit corners that are below an 80 overall, so that way everyone gets burned and you can't blame anyone.
Exactly. It's just everybody's fault.
Everyone's getting burned.
You blame the pass rushers for bad pass coverage.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. All right, so you're going Marshawn for sure.
I am, and I do need to hop off after that little spicy hot take, but y'all have a good one. I'll listen to y'all's later. It was good.
I was gonna say we're about to end it anyway after this one, but
y'all have a good one.
All right. For my most overrated player.
Yeah, someone that maybe gets the stats but doesn't show up like in games. They mess up too much. Maybe they get burned, like you're saying, Marshawn. Like maybe they just are not what they're supposed to be, but they're there anyway.
I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. Like I said, there's a couple players that could have been disappointments had some things not happen. Like as far as Bradley Chubb, that was about to be a bad situation where he
rip
was
for sure on him. If they come into that team, rip for sure. That's
I think there was one guy I was thinking of just that was like a waste of a top pick. I guess actually, you know what? I got one. Davis Tuthill for the Packers, the running back. Even though he came out normal dev to start, dude had like 96 truck power. He had like 96 trucking.
Oh, is that big white dude you're talking about?
Yeah.
I forget his name. I know what you're talking. Yeah, that guy's nuts. I played him and he broke a tackle every single time that he touched the ball. Like it didn't matter. He's breaking at least one tackle.
And he had 90 speed with like 96 trucking and like 88 stiff arm. Dude was ridiculously good. And he got in just because he was normal dev. I think he kind of fell by the wayside because they were expecting a plus dev for it. So I think that if I had to pick one that I can think of off the top of my head, at least, that would be it. Would be Davis Tuthill. So who do you got?
I got all right. So here's a spicy take for you. I hope Bishes is listening right now, even if he's not in chat. Rip. I'm going Kropog, and here's why. Here's why. Because Bishes had to toe that line of 33%. And if I'm mistaken, this is before I was commissioned, so I don't really know. Either he went over the 33 or he towed it at like 32.9 or some shit. To get him all those numbers, like he really, he fed him the ball. If there was a stat for how many times Crow Daddy was targeted and didn't get the ball, I like to see that one. Because we don't do percent of targets, we do percent of receptions.
Yeah.
And the amount of times that he was targeted as a tight end to get all that, I think is kind of egregious considering his career. I think the guy is a very good player. Whenever I've played him multiple times, he hasn't showed up, and that's honest. To be honest, he just hasn't showed up against me. And I think that he's someone that is just fed the ball, force fed. It's a close second. I could be convinced that Crow Daddy maybe beats this one out. He's a little better than this. Is Myles Garrett. And that is because I really do think that he could be better than he is. He's a 99 overall, and he just sometimes disappears in games. He really does.
Yeah.
As much as I played Pook, same thing happened. He's complained a lot about Myles Garrett disappearing, and honestly, it's true. Every time I played him, man, I'm like, wow, this guy for some reason is getting shut down by Jonah Williams over there, 82 overall man. So those are my two picks for it. I'm waiting to see if Bishes listens to this cast and talk shit.
Yeah, I can understand the Crow Pog one. I can understand that. I think for me, it's just more of a. I think for me, it's more of a like Crow Pog. I think I did a relatively good job of keeping them boxed in. And then Myles Garrett, I've seen him disappear in games that I played Pook in, like the 2 or 3 times I played him this cycle. He disappeared. He disappeared a couple times. One that really disappeared on me though, that I didn't even I like it. It got to a point where I kind of forgot he was on the field, was Joey Bosa, which is crazy because Joey Bosa has put up these like ridiculous sack numbers, but it was to a point where I really didn't even notice that he was on the field. So I don't know. I guess Myles Garrett probably would be a really good choice for that, where there's just times where he just really just doesn't show up, and it's just it's just a thing.
All right, so if those are our picks, I'll do one more that I just thought of. I don't really think we do this a whole lot as an official topic. We kind of we talk about it every once in a while, but I wanna talk about one user from each conference that you think really goes underrated. Someone that might not make playoffs all the time, or that isn't always at the top, but someone that you really think actually is a skilled user that maybe gets left on the wayside when people talk about good users in the league.
In the AFC.
Yeah, let's go AFC first.
Yeah, in the AFC, my guy probably would be Lights. Lights hasn't quite had the success this cycle due to a lot of stuff. He was moving for like a good part of the first part of the cycle, trying to get settled in, stuff like that. So it took a minute for him to kind of get into the game. He missed like the first 2 or 3 drafts. It was just a disaster that first couple seasons, especially with the team like the Chargers coming in. Where a lot of those first couple drafts are pivotal for setting up that success later. But he is consistently good enough to beat those users that that are at that upper level, and then also winning those games that he's supposed to. You don't see him lose many of those. So you don't see him lose many of those. So
yeah. As someone said, the same
that's my thing.
We always have tough games, it always comes down to the wire for us. And I don't think I've lost yet, but I mean, I think I've beat him by like 6 points, 2 points, stuff. It's never like a blowout really.
Yeah.
And so in AFC, Lights is a close contender. I'm actually going to give it to my boy Good Bob out in Houston.
Okay.
We went 10-6 this year, missed playoffs like someone else we know. Really strong user, someone that I think might not be around the top 5 level, but I think like top 7, 8. I actually believe Bob. If you were given a chance at the beginning of this cycle, I think he could have done some good stuff with that team, and I think he's a strong user. He came in to a decent Texans team, and that had like problems like in the O-line. He doesn't really have a tight end threat. He had to kind of trade away some people for cap reasons. He had to let J.J. Watt go. I think he definitely had to trade away Clowney, and he still went 10-6, and did pretty well. I think Bob's a guy that you got to watch out for come next cycle. He's a smart guy. I've known him for about 8 years in real life. Good guy, and I really think he's a smart Madden player and a good one at that.
Yeah, I can see that. Bob definitely. The time I played him, um, I can definitely see where you get that, where he's one of the more slept on guys. I haven't had the opportunity to play him very often, so I guess that's where I am on that one. But from the time I did play him, I could definitely understand where that would come from. Where you would say he definitely is an underrated user in the AFC. In the NFC, I would probably say, um, to be honest, I would probably have to go with Connor. He's a fringe playoff team. I'm not going to include myself in this because it is
Well, I
what it
think
is.
people know about you. I think you've made Super Bowls, you won Super Bowls. I mean, so I don't think you might be down on yourself and saying you don't include yourself because you're not good enough. I think it's because people know who you are and they know you're a threat regardless. So that's what I think.
Yeah. So I would say if I had to choose one in the NFC, Connor would be it. Connor to me is one of those that is he's a fringe playoff team solely because the NFC has so many good teams in it. He like every year he's finishing at about 500, maybe 9-7, and it just seems like he just can't get into that playoff picture quite as often as I'm sure he would like, and everybody would like to see him, because it's just tough with all the talent when you have 10-6 and 11-5 teams missing playoffs consistently. So I think Connor would probably be my choice there, especially as somebody that has to play him twice and has split with him literally every time every season in this cycle. So that would be my choice there.
For mine, I'm gonna go one. I gotta go one that probably is maybe a little contentious, but I'm going Robert on the 49ers. His record's not always there. He went 5-11 this year, but he gives away some forced losses sometimes. He's got a busy life. He just has a newborn baby that he's been dealing with the past. Not dealing with. That sounds bad. He's been busy with the past year.
Yeah.
He loves very much. Robert's a guy that I originally actually brought over from Jets League. I don't know if you remember. That's the original league he was in.
Yeah.
I brought him into the VFL league with us because I really liked playing him. He was a nice guy, always in that chat when I left Jets League. Because don't forget, he's a racist. And so I brought in Robert to our league, and we've been a joy ever since. And honestly, every time I play him, man, like I think the last time I played him, he might have beaten me. Actually, he's always really strong, knows what he's doing, makes some mistakes. But I really think that if he could dedicate a little more time, which is not his fault at all because of his life, like he could be like a good player, like around the same like level as I'd say like a Bob level, like around like 7-8.
Yeah.
I really think he could
Definitely.
be around there.
I mean, I agree. I think a lot of stuff with Robert is just his. Sometimes, and mistakes happen. They do. Sometimes it's just the timing of those mistakes. Like throwing picks in the red zone, or after you're having a strong drive, throwing those interceptions, or like having those moments where you're turning the ball over on a throw that you shouldn't have tried to make, but you tried to fit it in anyway.
Yes, yeah, the mistakes are definitely what kills Robert. And the thing about that is though, is like you can teach yourself, you can really like try to make yourself minimize the mistakes from hot routes, from just playing a little conservatively, from trusting your defense, and that's something that you can just learn. And that's why I think Robert really could, if he dedicated more time, like really be like make playoffs every year, honestly.
Definitely, I agree. I know you got to get off, so I mean we'll end it there. We will be back next week. If Tyler can get off of his busy, he's a very busy person as well. So if he can figure out a time, figure out if he can find a time to get on next week, that would be definitely appreciated. But we will be back. We appreciate everybody. We're going to try to make these a little bit more interactive. Going forward, next cycle, I'm looking into trying to add overlays and stuff like that, for guys. It is a little bit more immersive for the cycle.
Yeah, maybe
But
do some things like whenever we have another pod, like whoever's listening, have people throw us out some questions that we can live answer, that we think about that they want to see answered in the chat too, or on pod. It's a good call. Interaction with the league always.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, that's what I'm looking to do next cycle. And I mean, we'll probably kind of toy with it a little bit in this last season, just to kind of test it out, see what we need to do, where we can improve and stuff at. But other than that, that's all we got. We appreciate everybody that was watching. Thank you, Tyler, for coming on. You've been a great co-host today, man.
Yeah, I
so
enjoyed it, man. I'll catch you later. Everyone have a good day. AMLoB for life.
All right. Yes, sir. Catch y'all later.